Yes, and welcome to Siesta Ocho. No, wait, it's City Business. I knew that. Welcome Jason Strong into the house, FMC, doing its visual thing. Michael Halley from 4th City Ward here, and welcome on this beautiful fall day. We're going to catch you up to what's latest from the City Hall, City Haps, as we like to say here in KRUU-ville, 100.1 FM on your radio dial, also KRUU-FM.com on the World Wide Web machine. Michael, how you doing today?
Good, glad to be here.
Good to see you, and what do you got on the docket?
All right, well, before I start my informal review of the November 14th, 2016 regular City Council meeting, I have to make a correction from last time. I do sometimes listen to our rebroadcast to make sure what I said was accurate, and sometimes I get it wrong. So I'm going to make a correction that the hotel-motel tax that is collected in the city of Fairfield is a 12% tax, not a 1% tax. 1% would be local option sales tax.
I gotcha. That's correct. Yep.
Of that 12%, all of it goes to the state and 7% comes back to the city. And that is what funds our Visitors Bureau. Mm-hmm. And the Visitor Bureau promotes Fairfield as a destination and also gives out about 10% of their total revenues as grants for any event or program that can bring people to town. So 12% hotel motel. I should have known that because I was formerly for 3 years the Visitors Bureau board president, but we all make mistakes.
Well, no, thanks for correcting that. And so it goes to the state, comes back, some of that's used, and the 1% is what you were referring to.
Which is local option sales tax.
Right.
Yep.
It goes, so that's does that go to the state? Or
no, I think that's
a local
city. It does come back to us, but it's 100% of that 1% comes back. And that's on any sale. And the hotel motel obviously is only for hotels, motels, bed and breakfast.
Gotcha.
And then the reason that's pertinent is we will talk about this, the Airbnbs and the short-term rentals as well.
Comes into play. Okay, great.
So just wanted to clarify that.
Thanks.
All right, so we didn't have any public forums or appearances. We went straight into the resolutions and action items because they're so exciting. Little housekeeping. The city, mostly the police department, collects things that just are left places or are found and never recovered, or just different city departments have that don't need anymore. So we're going to have a surplus city-owned equipment auction. December 5th. I don't know exactly where it's happening, but
that's good to know. There could be some interesting things.
Could be. There are a lot of bikes, for example.
You could buy your own bike back
that's the joke. Is if someone's going to show up, that's my bike.
But obviously, the police collect that, and if people want to check if their things are there, they've been able to do that.
Maybe it'd be a good time to check to see if they have your bike before they auction it off.
Yeah.
All right. So, but it's just a way you get a little bit of something and get rid of.
And that's December 5th coming up.
Yeah, and I don't know where exactly this is taking place. If I find out, I'll try to shoot it out there. We'll have another city business before the 5th. So.
And that's a Monday too, just for the record.
Yeah. All right, we moved along to talking about the tax increment finance agreement that we have for the North Campus Village, Phase 5. So just to remind people, that's Vastu Partners LLC. Martin Brett has a fair number of houses out there currently. It's on the North B Street, right at the edge of city limits.
Okay.
On the west side of the street, and is expanding, and wanted to partner with the city and use this unique and, I like to think, well thought out TIF structure. How it works is the developer builds out whatever they say they're going to do, a certain number of units. And once they're all done, the city collects the increment, which is the property tax that wasn't there before. So if it was just farmland, it was probably getting very little. With all these houses, there'll be quite a bit of increment. We will give 90% or a limit to 1.5 million of that back as a rebate over a 10-year period. So it might not reach 1.5 million depending on the valuation of the properties that are built.
So it's 1.5 or 10 years?
It's 90% over 10 years, not to exceed 1.5.
Gotcha.
So
in other words, if it went to 1.5 in 2 years, which it's not, that would be
it. Yep. So what that does for the city is it costs us nothing because we're only rebating back the increased valuation that wasn't there before. So we're giving back as a rebate to help cover infrastructure costs, which is more and more common these days with development, that just with the economic climate, developers do seem to need these kind of rebates. He's also getting state rebate or state incentives for doing 100% LMI, low to moderate income. So they've capped the amount that can be charged for the units, and it's made them very highly sought after because they're very affordable. And so without the city's rebate or without the state rebate, the cost per unit would have been much, much higher. So it's an example of using essentially public funds to, you could say, subsidize, but in this case, the city is using funds that he's generating that otherwise wouldn't have been generated. So it's no taxpayers' money is going into this. It's strictly self-contained. It's the increment that this specific development is creating, and it's only a 90% rebate. So that 10% is a gain. So over the 10 years, the city keeps 10%, and after that, 100%. So then that's a lot of valuation because this is a minimum, probably a $5 million project, could be over $7 by the time it's all done.
And desperately needed.
It's
housing, no question.
Yeah, LMI housing is exactly what the city needs. So we're happy to partner in this way. And this is the first developer to use this system, this TIF system. If you read about TIF, a lot of times it's been done the other way, where the city would borrow to lay the infrastructure, create the TIF district, and then pay itself back. And this structure avoids that speculation for the city.
Because then, of course, if somehow it doesn't sell, then you're caught.
And that happens occasionally. There was I know of one TIF project in the city that didn't quite pan out the way it was supposed to. One of several. So that's good batting average. But at the same time, this protects the city, protects the citizens from a development that may never pan out properly.
And obviously this was appealing to the developer.
Yeah, very. I mean, to be able to get that back and cover infrastructure cost, again, is making it so that the price point can be lower, which is a win for the citizens or anybody interested in living out there. So we're moving forward on that. There was a public hearing set to annex a little portion of the university's property to be part of North Campus Village. It's a very small sliver, but we'll deal with that at our November 28th meeting. But we approved the resolution that had the development agreement, which is exactly what I just said, 90% over 10 years, not to exceed 1.5. And it's a rebate of the valuation of the increased increment created by the property. So we're moving forward on that. Also moving forward on this is such a large number, almost $25 million in sewer revenue capital loan notes.
All right.
That's that USDA grant, the biggest USDA grant ever given for water quality improvement in Iowa. It was given to the city of Fairfield.
Very impressive.
Yep. So that's to do work at our plant.
And also desperately needed.
Yeah.
Or at least needed.
Well, the state has been breathing down the city's throat to say neck.
I'm a cracked metaphor guy myself.
I get them all mixed up.
Don't quote me.
I have that kind of brain. So
never kiss a gift horse in the mouth. Is that one?
I think that's right. That's
anyway.
The way I remember it. All right.
Even Jason's looking away now from behind the camera. Anyway, back to
you get what I was saying. They've been pressuring the city among many cities in the state to end sanitary sewer overflows, which is where the untreated sewage gets discharged into streams, the public areas. And so luckily in most cases when an SSO happens, the rain event that caused it dilutes it to the point where it's actually more diluted than the affluent that's legally allowed to leave the plant and go into the stream by the wastewater treatment plant. So the effect on the environment in many cases is minimal, but in those cases where it's enough rainwater to cause the overflow and it's not diluted, that is raw sewage going out into the environment. not something that necessarily affects you and me, but it affects our waterways, maybe somebody's drinking water. We get our water from a deep aquifer here in Fairfield, but somebody who's got a well or gets it from open water source, like a pond, that's not good to have any of that untreated sewage. So the DNR, State Department of Natural Resources, doing the work of or acting on behalf of the EPA, the federal level, has been working with the city of Fairfield for a number of years to try to get us to the point we're at now, where the plan is there. We know exactly what we're going to do. Now we're ready to borrow the money, do these upgrades at our wastewater treatment plant. It not only makes it end SSOs or essentially, no one says we can have to get to 100%, but we get as close as possible. But it enables the plant to handle more wastewater, which I just read that a large potential economic development plant project in Ottumwa fell through because their wastewater infrastructure couldn't handle this new, I don't know if it was meat packing plant or whatever. And so to have that capacity to handle more wastewater is actually good, even on economic development side, to handle more residences, more industry. So the plant will be expanding. The property around the plant has been purchased. The plan is in place. This loan, it's a very low interest rate, and they allowed us to stretch it over 40 years, and the council decided to go with that 40 years because it minimized the rate increase for the citizens, and that was our number one goal. We were hoping if we got enough grants that we wouldn't have to raise the rates anymore, unless just in keeping with inflation. Looks like we probably will have a rate increase at some point because this is a loan, not a grant, but it'll be much, much less severe than it would have been had we not gotten this grant, had we not got, or this loan, or in the grants that we've gotten from the USDA. So we're very, very grateful to get it. The work will continue over the next couple of years, as will step one, which is the conveyance, which is the lines connecting the city to the plant. So those are getting upgraded. The boring that's happening is actually under Highway 34. I think I said Highway 1, another mistake that I made. At some point, it's 34 that's going under. And then it goes to the area by Lamson Woods. We're actually going to continue that under the Fairfield Country Club golf course. That gets us a step further. And so this is all replacing old sewer lines with larger, newer pipes that can handle the flow. So it's the plant, it's the conveyance system, and all that together will end SSOs, sand sewer overflows, which again increases our quality of our water and brings us into compliance with DNR and EPA regulations.
Great. And I just want to remind you, you're listening to Michael Halley. This is James Moore. You're listening to City Business, KRUU-FM, every day following the City Hall session there. We're lucky enough to have Michael drop by and give us his assessment of what went down there. The 12:30 p.m. Tuesday following that, then 6:30 p.m. Thursday, and 6:30 a.m. the following Monday. You can just catch up to what's the latest going down there, and we do appreciate that. What else you got?
All right, this next item was something that I had worked on with our city administrator, Mike Harmon, and our city clerk, Joy Messer. When Mike and I had gone to the Iowa League of Cities annual conference in Des Moines, one of the best practices that was recommended is to formalize your city council rules of procedure. And knowing that Mayor Malloy is in his final term, and so we'll have a kind of new leadership at some point coming up.
By the way, happy birthday, right?
Oh yeah, it's just had his birthday. That's right, days. On Saturday. It's a good time just to have this. And what it's not so much for the people who've been doing it. Maybe there's some reminders in there, but it's really orientation for new council members. It's about 12 pages, and it just spells out the things, how we prepare agendas, how the meetings are chaired, when do you have permission to speak, how you should get permission to speak. That's a portion of it's about the public, how much time you're allotted to speak, that kind of thing. And so the portion about the public will print out. It's about 2 pages, and leave it in City Hall in the council chambers.
Great.
So anybody who wants to kind of come in and speak and just look it over and say, okay, this is what I'm expected. I'm expected to come to the microphone, state my name and address, address the issue, not single out any council member, but talk to the council as a whole. So that's for the public. And then for the council, we're expected to read our agendas that are given to us on the Friday before, or the work day before the council meeting, because last week we had a holiday on a Friday, so we got a Thursday. And prepare any questions we have for staff, and if possible, ask those questions by noon the day of the meeting. The meetings are at 7. So the idea is that we're trying to give our staff preparation time to actually, if we have a detailed question, to allow them to get the answer.
Great.
John Revelinsky was concerned that it was saying don't ask questions during council meetings. Instead, just get them all answered before, and then at the meeting, just rush it through. I said, absolutely not. You may ask any question. Questions are encouraged. I find myself a lot of times at the council meetings saying things that are restating the obvious for the purpose of mostly the public. The next item is exactly a good example. I didn't say anything because I hope it was clear enough, but where what we're doing is something non-controversial, or to give a little bit more background, just, maybe sometimes it's just something that ties it into something that we talked about before. So I'll ask those kind of questions as well that aren't really, because I already know the answer. I just want to kind of clarify for the public. John was concerned if the council doesn't do that, then it appears as if we had already deliberated, come to a conclusion, and then now we're just making a decision. I said, no, it's just a courtesy to our staff. And if you want a detailed answer, like say you're asking a department head to give you a comparison over the last 5 years of usership at the rec center or something like that, they're not going to be able to pull that out at the meeting. But if you give them preparation, give them time, they will. And that actually adds to the depth of the discussion. So things like that.
And obviously certain questions are like that, research oriented, and others might be that you don't want to do that you want to ask somebody once they're there for, this is not saying how it has to be. It's a guideline.
Guidelines. Yep. And that would be very helpful. I know when I first started, I wished I had this document. I know someone who started recently who had a lot of questions that this would have helped answer. And then also reminders that it references the city code and the state code, and the city code and the state code are explicitly clear on this. And it's a good reminder for us council members that we as council members have no individual authority. The council only authority is when we act, when we vote on things with a quorum, and the majority of that quorum can vote. That's our authority. So I give myself an example. I'm the chairman of the personnel committee, but that does not give me the right to contact city staff and tell them what I think of how they do their job or anything along those lines. The council, again, its authority is as a whole, as a majority of the whole. And so I think that's important to remember, because our council currently is a well-behaved group of very reasonable people, but not every council here in Fairfield has always been that way. There are people who sometimes believe themselves to have an authority that neither the city code or the state code grant them. So this references that. It doesn't drive that point home, but it's in there. And I think, again, if someone's like myself first starting out, and I kind of learned this stuff as I went, but to have that reference, and it's always there for us. So we passed that. Then we moved on, and this is interesting. There's a proposed housing project near the Pilot Grove Saving Bank. And this is an example where they're applying for a state, maybe it's the same state support that the North Campus Village applied for, but they needed a statement from the city saying that we would give an incentive of $1,000 per unit. They're going maybe up to 15 units. Well, our standard property tax abatement program that we have for any new construction, unless these things are going to be only worth like $20,000, which they're not, they're going to be new construction. $1,000 is easy because we give up to 75%. So it was easy to write that because it's already our policy. And so that's the kind of clarification that sometimes the council can make when we're doing these things. The mayor made that when he brought it up, that this is just already what we do. We're just putting it in a formal letter and making it a resolution, and that's what these state agencies want to see.
Well, and also other people can reference that for going forward on projects they're doing, right? There's just a record of it.
Yeah, they have that in hand. Mm-hmm. Yep. But it's part of the actual application for these state funds. Alrighty. The final ordinance was to repeal and replace the section of the code dealing with lodging house regulations. So we talked about this.
Airbnb
and the like. All right. Well, there's a lot in there, but there will be a permit that's required that will need once every 4 years, a fire inspection, and there will be an annual fee. Councilman John Revelinsky wants to see that annual fee be a little lower. He wants it to see it the same as a home occupancy permit, which is when he runs a business out of their home, they pay this fee. So he'll bring that probably as an amendment for the second reading.
Do you remember what kind of range we're talking about?
I don't remember exactly. It might be 50 or 100 or something.
Some annual.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But some of the things in here are that besides the inspection and the permit, they will collect hotel motel tax on behalf of the city. And there was one other.
And just to be clear again, that's 12%.
12%.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So if you say it's $50 a night, then $6 on top of that. And there are some other regulations. The one point, it's right near the beginning of this ordinance that I had some question about was it excludes R1 zoning, residential 1, which is a pretty large portion of the town. And
in other words, residential housing not able to do this.
Yeah, so R1 is strictly single family housing. Okay. R2 you get into potential duplex and something where it's more than one unit per building. But R1 is single family residence. So they felt like that area should be protected to maintain the integrity of those R1 neighborhoods. However, if I was an R1 property owner and I wanted to do one of these, I could seek a variance. So a variance is essentially a legal, being kind of an excuse, not an excuse, but permission.
Permission, yeah.
To have something that doesn't fit code. Maybe that might be a little difficult to do. We'll see. But if, let's say, you get letters from your surrounding neighbors and they say, "Hey, we have no problem with this," then the Board of Adjustment could approve it. So it isn't, like I said, it's not a wall. It's a wall with the door in it. There's still a way to get through if you're in R1. So anyone interested in this, the ordinance, it can be read on the city website. You can go to City Hall, get a copy and look at it. We didn't actually have any members of the public speak about it. So one member of the public who I know the property had been denied was there, and one of the points that City Administrator Mike Harmon made was, with this ordinance, you now have objective criteria for what a property owner would have to do to meet to be allowed to do this. And so we discussed that if somebody had had a variance denied under the old ordinance, when the new ordinance comes on, that is no longer valid because the ordinance has changed. That same property owner can now come back when this passes
and apply
under the new code. And if they meet the regulations, it is approved. There's no subjectivity about it. So it takes that subjectivity away, which is part of what we're trying to do, level playing field.
Yep.
The other way it's a level playing field is, we talked about this last time, if you own a residence in, it's a residential rather than commercial property, you pay less property tax. And if you're not collecting hotel motel tax, then you have an advantage over hotels, motels, B&Bs who do pay higher taxes, who do charge for those things. And if you are lodging, like we said, it's not a one-time thing. It's not RAGBRAI coming through. It's not just your family staying with you for a while, but it's an advertised lodging that you are running as a business. Then you should pay something for that, have it inspected, meet certain safety requirements, and collect hotel motel tax on behalf of the city. I'm running out of time.
You are.
Ways and Means, it was a non-point. There's some insurance group that wanted the city to be part of this suit against our insurance pool company because they didn't break down their the fee that they were charging. But we looked into it and found the fee they were charging was completely fair, and it was just kind of an honest mistake, and we did not want to get involved in litigation for that. And the personnel, we continued the tradition of offering administrative leave, half day before Thanksgiving and half day before Christmas. The city as a public entity can't give bonuses, and so instead this is a way to just give a little something to our full-time staff, give them a half day before a couple of holidays, spend more time with their family.
Okay. And
then we went to closed session to discuss some easement prices for the sewer line that's going along Libertyville Road. So we were able to get 5 properties. The property owners had agreed to a certain price. We discussed them in closed session and came out of closed session and passed them all. So 5 more properties down. I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 to go. Hopefully we'll get that all done so that line can be put in, and then there'll be actually potential for some more housing development out on Libertyville Road once the line is installed.
Great. Is that it?
That's it.
Well, you've done a justice to the City Hall business. Thanks for bringing it all to the table here. We just have a few seconds. Jason, always good to see you. This is Jimmy Moore with City Business. Michael Halley reporting in from City Hall. And coming up, if you're listening live on Tuesday, Dennis Ramundi going to be talking with Des Moines Register's Rekha Basu. Stay tuned.